Hello and welcome to ScreenHour with me, Mikey.
And with me, Kieran.
And this week we're going to do another filmography of a director, similar to Christopher Nolan episode, and it's going to be Quentin Tarantino.
Another big deal in the directing business, really. You know, you'd put Tarantino and Nolan in the same sort of
prestigious or prestige.
Yeah, they're the same sort of prestige. Yeah,
it's weird though because obviously for this I had a look a bit more at his IMDb and his filmography. Despite him, I think in the 90s, big start of the 90s, he hasn't directed loads.
He actually started in '87 where he did a film called My Best Friend's Birthday.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
wrote it, directed it, but he was also in it as well. But it's only a short film in black. It was a black and white film.
I like all of his films. To be fair, there's not one of them I particularly dislike.
I'm not keen on Kill Bill.
I like Kill Bill. The only one, and I'll put this as my cult classic because I feel like nobody's watched it. And I say I like all his films. I don't think I've ever finished watching it. I think it's the first time I fell asleep watching it because it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Was Jackie Brown, and that's what's my cult classic because I don't know anybody else who's really watched it.
I totally understand your reasoning for that. Cult classic would be something no one's seen because that is what a cult classic is, technically. But I'd also argue his full-on proper cult classic is Pulp Fiction. You know, that is a cult classic. He's actually known as a cult classic. So that's what I've chosen as my cult classic is Pulp Fiction because it's the one everyone refers to. It's constantly sort of being referred to in recent events what am I getting at? The quotes and stuff from the films are still being used today. Right, it's something everyone goes back to. So I'd argue it's Pulp Fiction is his cult classic, but I think your reasoning for putting Jackie Brown as a cult classic as something that no one's really seen totally makes sense as well. Because if I'm honest, I haven't seen Jackie Brown.
By cult classic, I suppose you can Google the definition now, but it's one where only the hardcore fans are into. And I suppose Pulp Fiction used to be that, but it isn't anymore. It's too big. It's never left the zeitgeist, really, for the last 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
Like you say, people quote it so much. It is pure gold, though, as well.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
It really put John Travolta back on the map as well, didn't it?
Really? Before that, Travolta was just known as from Greece, isn't he?
Greece and the dancing one. Saturday Night Fever. Friday Night Live. Yeah, Saturday Night Fever, which is a pretty good film.
I got Hairspray in my head as well, but I feel like Hairspray was after Pulp Fiction.
Oh, Hairspray was a lot Hairspray was when we was kids.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I feel like that was just after High School Musical, maybe even 2009.
2007. Oh, that is close call. That is 2009.
The thing is with Pulp Fiction is that it was one of the first films which had a mad narrative structure.
Yeah.
As far as I know. And now loads of other things follow it. Since that, it's the twists and turns, and now it shows you why it starts off with X, then it gets to Y. It shows you how you got to X type of thing in the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And it's characters get absolutely wrecked out of nowhere. And then you see them even though you see they're dead, you know they're dead. It will bring them back, or rewind time, or whatever. It's probably the most quotable one, as you say. But they are I think all of them are quite quotable.
Yeah, all of them have got sort of iconic lines that you can pull from, but Pulp Fiction is definitely quoted the most, without a doubt.
What's your favourite?
My fan favourite?
Or your favourite?
Oh, my favourite of Tarantino's?
Yeah.
Well, my favourite my favourite is his best directed, and I'd argue his best directed, for me, is Hateful Eight.
See, I'll put Hateful Eight as my most underrated. Because I feel like it should get more love.
Yeah, I think I could put that under my most underrated too, but I've got something else for that. For me, Hateful Eight is his best directing. It's not his masterpiece because another one's his masterpiece. But this would have been a masterpiece if this other film didn't exist. You know what I mean? It's such a brilliant story. The way it's told, the way it's so methodical and slow. and it's just on a constant slow burner, just slowly building and building and building. And what I like is particularly the opening scene where it slowly zooms out from the cross, right? And you watch these like the carriages going across in the background in the snow, right? You sort of think that's Kurt Russell in the carriage going along, but it's not. That's actually Channing Tatum and stuff later on in the film or earlier in the actual timeline, if you really want to think about it that way. But it's such a subtle thing, and you don't really notice that sort of thing unless that's what you're looking for. And you, like I say, you notice it like the second time you watch it. Really,
Yeah, I think Hateful Eight's really good at building suspense. And
yeah,
like a lot of these like films are good at doing that, but I think like ironically enough, I think Hitchcock said about there's a metaphor for like things being exciting with like the bomb under the table ticking as opposed to just like an explosion.
Orson Welles did a bit where he shows a car. There's a bomb in the car, and you watch the car drive through like a carnival festival or something like that, and then it drives through, and then it blows up, and it's the ticking time bomb. You're watching it, so it's like show the audience, but don't let the characters know what's about to happen. So the audience are sort of not. It's not so much shock and awe. I can't remember the phrasing. It's not shock and awe where it's like, because if you were to watch like Michael Bay movie, you're watching something, there's an explosion, you're like, oh, explosion, right? But if you know there's an explosion about to happen, you're more on the edge of your seat because you're waiting for that to explode. You are watching the scene unfold, and you're like, these people don't know that, people doesn't know that, so it builds more suspense as such. I mean, a moment that I could think of where you've got explodes, but then also you got a bit of time to think, shit, there's a bomb that's about to explode, is in is it Batman versus Superman? And it's the guy in the wheelchair and in the courtroom, and it blows up.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's Batman versus Superman.
That's Batman versus Superman, yeah. Like that scene, it's like something's fishy, something's off because Jesse Eisenberg's not there. So you're like, what's going on here? And then it's when Holly Hunter sees like the jar on her desk.
Granny speaks to you.
Yeah, and it's just like that. There's only like 3-4 seconds, and she looks over at the guy in the wheelchair, and the guy in the wheelchair is like, "What?" And we as the audience, our brains are so quick, we register what the fuck's about to happen. So it's not like an explosion that just like boom, oh, explosion. You've just got these little bits that have just quickly teed it up, and then you're looking like, oh shit. And I mean, and the way Henry Cavill performs that scene afterwards, where everything's blown up around him, and he just stands there like, oh fuck, how did I not see this coming? Like, I love that bit. I love that scene.
Yeah. Not to get too sidetracked off Quentin Tarantino, but like Batman vs Superman is it has so much potential because there's some great elements to it, but it's such a mess. Like it's
the ultimate edition or whatever edition they want to call it. That's far better than the theatrical cut.
Yeah, you are right, 100%. It like fills in loads of plot holes or like makes motivation seem a lot clearer.
Yeah, we're not here to talk about Zack Snyder. Maybe some other time.
Yeah, I think we were all do Snyder at one point, to be fair.
Yeah.
But Hateful Eight is like, I say this, like not like you need a well-known cast, but like you've got an incredibly like good cast there.
Yeah, there's like a solid ensemble.
It's a solid big cast, as you say. But also, not like he's a relatively unknown actor at the time, but like I think it was the biggest film he was in. Was Walter Goggins? Walter Goggins steals the show in that film.
Yeah, he does. He's like incredible because I recall he did that, and then I think he went on to do Tomb Raider, and I was like really hyped to see him as the bad guy in Tomb Raider. I can't remember what the character's name was. Matthias.
Yeah, I think he's like that.
Yeah, it is. It's Matthias. Yeah, and I was interested to see where he went with that character, and he didn't disappoint. To be fair, I mean the story was a bit weak for Tomb Raider. It wasn't amazing. But himself Walton Goggins was brilliant, and as you say, like he totally stole the show in Hateful Eight.
Him and Samuel Jackson, but like Samuel Jackson being great in a Quentin Tarantino film or being great in general isn't much of a curveball, to be fair.
And talking of a bit of a curveball, is Kurt Russell's death in that you kind of don't see. I mean, I suppose you just see everyone's death coming in a Tarantino film, But that's you think Kurt Russell is the main star of the film, but technically he's not. It's Sam.
Yeah, Sam's in it in the long haul, like.
Yeah, but he comes in a bit later, so he's not like right at the beginning. He's kind of like the passenger,
Yeah.
isn't he? He's not really there straight away. He's there as a passenger.
And the actress, is it Jamie? What's her name?
Oh shit! I got Jamie Lee Curtis in my head. That's totally wrong. It's no, it's not. Yeah, Jennifer
Lee. Yeah.
Jennifer Jason Lee. We were like Jennifer Lee was right, but it just sounded wrong. But yeah, Jennifer Jason Lee.
But no, she was like very manic, and she was fun. Like she has like good fun with her role.
Yeah, you could tell she like absolutely acted like her ass out for that role. Like she literally had. It feels like she had a brilliant time working on her character.
So it was like, yeah, she was like she really enjoyed it.
Yeah, she absolutely nailed it.
And like, what's cool is like Channing Tatum's, or spoilers, obviously spoilers for most of these films, well, if not all of them. But Channing Tatum's like surprise in it is absolutely gold.
Tatums.
Tatum's, yeah, it is gold. It is, and we don't really see it coming.
No, you really don't. He's kind of like a blindside.
Doesn't he pop from under the floor?
Yeah, I think he shoots Sam L in the dick or something like through the floor.
Hasn't he been there the entire time?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good. I like Hateful Eight though. I think not like you should look at films like this, but I think like we've probably said this in the past. It would make a really good like stage show. It's like a theatre piece.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned that when we actually saw the film itself. It's like it's the sort of film that you could 100% see on stage because it's all set in one location, and there'd be very minimal set changes, and it's fully character driven.
It's character driven. It's mostly just interesting conversations, and like apart from that one set, it's just the stagecoach at the start.
Yeah, just like traveling to the haberdashery. Oh, then there's the bits where they arrive and then they've got to like set out paces to the shitter and then to the barn. But I mean, that's something you could do off stage, isn't it? That's something someone could mention. That doesn't really add anything to the theatre.
I suppose.
Yeah, no.
But my favourite one, and I think this is his best work, is Inglourious Basterds.
Best directed for you is Inglourious.
Yeah, and I think even probably his masterpiece. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. All right.
I think it is because despite it being about Nazis, I feel it's like a real good feel. It's a feel-good film.
Feel-good film. Fuck up the Nazis.
I think it's like quite brutal and like it's a feel-good film, which has like harrowing and like depressing bits in it. But it's a good laugh as well. There's a very intense scene in it, like in all of his like we say, like it builds up suspense. But I think I watched it the other week, maybe, or the other month. I think I was on holiday. It was one of those few times where like you just have terrestrial TV, like when you're a kid or something, or they had three of you. It was on Film 4, and the bit where they're in the bar and they meet Michael Fassbender.
Oh yeah, and he does the wrong three.
He does the wrong three. That's like really good. You don't see it coming. You think out of all the things, you know that they're kind of onto them, and they think, oh, that is a spy or whatever. But you don't think that's going to be the point which like breaks the straw which breaks the camel's back.
No,
I think it's beautifully done. Like, and that's one of like the many bits which are elements I find gold. The other one is just Brad Pitt being absolutely jokes in all the scene.
Yeah, he's being like an over-the-top stereotypical American, like how the rest of the world views America.
Yeah, I think that's interesting and funny, and it's a good caricature, as you say, on like Americans. I like, and like he does it a lot in his films, but when he mentions a character and the character's got a nickname and why they've got it, he explores their origin or explores why they've got that nickname. Especially with the Bear Jew.
Yeah, there's like a little flashback sort of scene, isn't there?
It's like a vignette or like a flashback for them.
Mm.
And the Bear Jew's, the Bear Jew's a good director. He's a director in his own right. He is. Another guy who plays the Bear Jew, Eli Roth. Eli Roth he's directing the Borderlands film.
Oh, really?
That guy's directing Borderlands. Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
That's out of the blue for my mind. I can't comprehend that.
Yeah, that should be really weird. So and how like films start, and there's a lot of pressure on the first like 10-20 minutes of a film Christoph Waltz.
I was waiting for you to mention him because there's like, as soon as you think of Inglourious Bastards, the first thing you think of is Christoph Waltz going, "May I have a glass of your delicious milk?" That scene itself makes the film, I feel.
Yeah, if there's a standout performance in like around that era of filmmaking, and you were talking about popular films, it would go to that. Without a shadow of a doubt. Came out in 2009. Like, if you used to ask somebody like in 2010, 2011, who was the biggest name, of like villains particularly, it would be Christoph Waltz and that.
Well, Heath Ledger, 2008.
Or Heath Ledger in like Joker in 2008. That's a bingo.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
I'd put Inglourious Bastards as my fan favourite.
What I put my fan favourite was Pulp Fiction for people. Because like we said, everybody quotes it the most.
Yeah.
And it's the one which pop culture loves. Say what again, motherfucker? Like, it's just like that. I didn't even think about that. Like, that's just so easy to say. Would you give me a foot massage? No, I won't give you a foot massage. Do you know what they call a double pounder with cheese in France? A real with cheese. It's just
real cheese.
Real cheese. One of my favourite things about him, and he does this with two of his most famous ones. Does it with Inglourious Bastards, and he does it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He's like alternative timelines in the history.
Yeah, he changes history.
Yeah,
he rewrites it in a sense.
So obviously, Inglourious Bastards, the way like the Nazis would get blown up in that film. Yeah. And then in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's the Sharon Tate murders and how Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio inadvertently like stop them. It's weird when it happens like quite a lot with art, particularly like narrative, like good films or like TV or whatever. When you think of someone and say, why hasn't it been done before? Because it's such a like easy concept of thinking of different timelines.
Well,
everybody knows of it, like.
Well, if I'm gonna be honest, America rewrites history a lot in a lot of their films because they always write it that the Americans are the heroes and the Americans won like World War II. I mean, like, well, technically, no one won World War II.
But I meant more like things putting a totally different spin on it. I find that interesting.
Yeah, not just like writing for it for our own game where it says...
Not just writing it for biased, like you've said. I think that's something that people do quite a lot for biased reasons and to make them look cool or stand out.
But yeah, I do agree, you know, to rewrite history in a way that's completely different. I mean, there was that TV show on Amazon called The Man in the High Castle. And I actually quite enjoyed the show, but then for me it dragged on a bit and I think I only got I watched the first 2 seasons and I think I was like halfway through the second season and I was like, because I quite like that, how the Nazis won the war and how like America is all Nazified now and then there's these tapes that are showing, you know, the Nazis didn't actually win the war and it's like who creates these tapes and where they're from and all that and the espionage of the Nazis in America and like the Japanese scenes themselves, like the Imperial Army, that is incredible. Like I actually preferred the Japanese like scenes and stuff because it was so like prim and proper, like proper Japanese culture. And you know, it's for a Westerner that's very fascinating to see that. But you know, I quite enjoyed like their take on it. And I mean, I suppose you got the games as well of Wolfenstein. You know, that's as if like the Nazis had won the war as well, and it's how you try and battle that. So I mean, I'm not necessarily saying we only want war changes where maybe the Nazis should have won. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not a Nazi sympathizer. Fucking hell. I just mean like anything in general, any topic. It's just those are the only ones I can examples I can think of right now.
I think the trouble is when like people explore like alternate histories or like parallel universes, it's good when it's Quentin Tarantino's examples are good because when people talk about timelines and parallel histories, it's usually sci-fi things. It's usually like your Doctor Who's or your Star Trek or even like a comic book or something like that. Something a bit fancy and over the top. And it doesn't feel very realistic.
Yeah, there's not like a grounding to it.
In his case, it is. it feels like transposed. It could happen.
Yeah, 100%. Like, yeah, I mean, you've mentioned it already. The Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. For me, that's his masterpiece because it's got a little everything, and it I going in to see that at the cinema, I could not tell you what I was expecting to see, but when I came out of the cinema, I was like, wow. You know what I mean? It was totally not what I was expecting at all. I didn't know what to expect, but it was something so different to what I was expecting. Because if you really think about it, it's not. It's kind of like a really random film that really doesn't mean anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's like a love letter to Hollywood itself rather than a.
Yeah,
It's a good structured story. But I remember a lot of people complain how long it was and not a lot happened. But I feel like that's mainly because a lot of people, and it sounds really pretentious, a lot of people went into it thinking, oh, I've watched Kill Bill, I've watched Pulp Fiction. There's going to be a load of violence in it. And they expected all the violence, like quite a lot of violent scenes and like for it to be a lot of swearing or like a lot of creative like lines. And there's still like a lot of creative, quotable lines in it. Don't get me wrong. Like
yeah,
the one I say a lot too much is "goddamn hippies" or like "damn hippies" or whatever. I can't even see it. I'm probably quoting it incorrectly now, but I think it's great. I think how all the violence is right at the end and like
yeah.
it's so condensed and raw.
It's like because you're waiting for it the whole film. It's accumulating and it's building and building and building, and the violence you do get is like mad intense. I mean, just the way like fucking Cliff Booth, Brad Pitt just smashes that bird's face off the mantelpiece. He's just fucking going for it. It's like, yeah, I think she's dead.
Doesn't it start with dog food? Doesn't it start with a dog food tin?
Yeah, yeah, just lobs a dog food tin right at the face. Like, absolute, like, point blank range. Like, there was no missing with that shot at all. It was just like, bang!
He's like a foot away when he throws it in it.
Nah, he's a bit, he's like across the room, but obviously it's not a massive room. You know, he's a good, like, 2 meters, 3 meters.
I really like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I remember like loads of people had mixed feelings about it, but
I can understand the mixed feelings because it's definitely a Tarantino film through and through, 100% Tarantino film. He's got like a staple. He's got a mark of how he does his work, and it's hard to describe. It's just when you see it, you feel it and you know it, but it's not what you most people probably want from a Tarantino because it's not complete blood, guts, and gore constantly as such. And the thing is, all his other films, there's not constant blood, guts, and gore. Because, I mean, Hateful Eight, the first time they actually, anyone gets shot or killed, again, he's like right near the end. It's just a constant methodical story of character building and plot points being developed for most of the film. And no one really complained about that one, but people seem to complain a bit more about Once Upon a Time, which is, I think, a bit weird, but I don't know. I think it's just because Hateful Eight, you kind of like, oh, it's cowboys and stuff, so they've got that cool element. Whereas Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's like, oh, it's just some guys and a guy wants to be an actor and a stuntman, but you don't really get much from that. Is probably what people thought. But I thought for Once Upon a Time, there's so many like brilliant scenes, just too many to mention, because it's like every scene itself is a masterpiece. I mean, you got the scene where he beats the shit out of Bruce Lee. You got the scene where Leo's acting with the little girl. I mean, for me, that's some of Leo's best acting, as well as that little girl. I'm so sorry to that little girl. I literally don't know her name, but she was brilliant. Like the way they worked alongside each other, I thought it was phenomenal.
what I like is how I don't know. I think they should have marketed it of Sharon Tate wasn't in it. Like that
Yeah.
you didn't know it was about the Manson family murders.
Mm.
And then when that happened, you would have like the audience in general would have been like blown out their mind, like not blown out their mind, but really wouldn't they never saw it coming.
Yeah, it would have been like slowly accumulating, and then you'd be like, "Wait, isn't that Sharon Tate? Didn't she get?" And then you're watching it, and it's building in your head as you're watching it.
Of the footage I've seen, everything, and the interviews from back in the day, what I feel like she does really well is capture like her innocence and her like she's quite blissful, like, and seems quite lovely. Her character, by the way, Margot Robbie captures that is quite interesting.
Yeah, she does. She does a great job. I mean, when I watched it in the cinema, I actually, because Margot Robbie is, she's on the title, she's on the poster, and it's Leo, Brad, and Robbie. They are the three main names in the film, but Margot Robbie does not have near the amount of screen time as the other two.
She should have more. She should have more.
Like, she should have more screen time, or she shouldn't have been credited on the poster, because Margaret Qualley, I'd argue, had more screen time than Margot Robbie. Timmy Olyphant probably had more screen time than Margot Robbie. Al Pacino, nah, she had more screen time than Pacino. But I mean, Pacino's a name you'd expect to put on a poster.
I think if it was me, I would have not credited Margot Robbie, so you could have done a surprise, and then credited or like billed Al Pacino for the same amount of billing, because she should have been in it more. She's absolutely gold. Like as you say, she's one of the selling points of the film, I say.
Actually, what they could have done is, how when Nolan did Interstellar, nobody knew about Matt Damon.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
That was a big surprise. So that's what they should have done with Margot Robbie. Yeah.
Because what you've got to think, and everybody would have watched it anyway. Number one, Quentin Tarantino directed it, and everybody loves it. And number two is, if you told everybody the main leads, and this is what it was anyway, the main two leads were Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio, people would have watched a film about them two having a shit for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, it's like the duo you've been waiting to see, isn't it?
I don't think, like, you can probably fact check this or whatever, but I'm like 95% sure that they'd never been in a film before together, or if they had, they wasn't like together as long as Once Upon a Time.
I'm pretty sure they have not been in a film together at all.
Because I remember thinking at the time that was one of the big reasons I was so excited to see it. Because they're such big movie stars in their own right and like so talented. And you just think, I wonder what it's going to be like together.
Yeah, because I mean, you'd argue that Leo is, the greatest actor of our generation. That's not a rogue shout to say. But then Brad, he's never been seen as a great actor, but I think he is a great actor, because people seem to see him as like the sort of jokey actor that doesn't quite take himself a bit too seriously. And I know I get the feeling Brad doesn't take himself too seriously. He is down for a good time and a laugh, but I think too many people see him as that guy and not the guy that can also do like an incredible stellar performance. And I feel like he showed that with Cliff Booth, because I thought because I mean, if Inglourious Bastards, he's rolling that. Then there's the one he did, which was called The Machine or something, where he plays like a colonel or something like that. And
yeah, that's weird.
That's a weird one. Like, that's how people see Brad Pitt as an actor as such. Whereas I see him, as the guy that was in Troy, or the guy that was in Oceans, or
12 Monkeys is good. I'm pretty sure he got nominated for an Oscar for 12 Monkeys. It's great. It's like a time traveling film with Bruce Willis as the main character, but like.
Wait, no, I might have seen it actually.
Brad Pitt's in it as a supporting actor, and he's great in that. He plays a mental health patient. He's off the wall in that. He's really cool.
Oh, he did that at the same time he did 7, 95.
Yeah, there we are then. Yeah, it's a contrast to 7. 7's not a really good Brad Pitt film.
Yeah, it is. It's a brilliant film. You've got Fight Club. You've got.
He was probably the biggest in the 90s, wasn't he?
Yeah, I just said he was bigger in the 90s. Like, the 90s were his, but then the noughties were Leo. The noughties were Leo, and then like sort of like the 10s were also a bit more Leo. But I don't know who would you say is like the next Leo? Who do you think is going to be next?
Not so much next, but I think just as powerful or big as a star has been like Tom Hardy, action star, like a younger action star. Not so much action star, but Taron Egerton. Everybody loves him.
Yeah, a lot of people do love Taron Egerton. I we could argue we know Taron because we've seen him walking around the streets of Aberystwyth where we went to university.
Yeah. Somebody I know used to say he used to come in. He used to know him quite well. He used to talk to him in the pub or whatever.
I shot Paul with him once
Is it? Paul?
in porn. Paul.
I was like, hello.
I know him really well.
I was going to say, I bet you know him well, you dirty sod.
No, we shot some Paul at Scholars.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because it was down the road from me, and he used to frequent there. To be fair, and then did you hear the story about Hugh Jackman getting kicked out of Rummers as well?
I heard about that. I can't remember what they were filming there.
Eddie the Eagle.
That was it, yeah, because his friends, obviously Taron Egerton and Hugh Jackman were both in there. Now that makes sense. No, but to get back to Leo and him being a beast, I really like Django Unchained, I do.
Yeah, I think Django is really good, but I don't think it's as good as Inglourious, Hateful Eight, or Once Upon a Time. I think it's still like a brilliant film, like it's in its own right, but as my favourites and to tally them on the lists, it doesn't go on any of my lists of my categories, if you know what I mean.
You argue, obviously, Leonardo DiCaprio you'd say is the main villain, but the most despicable villain, I think, is Samuel Jackson's character in it.
Yeah, because he's complicit.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he also tries to grass up Django and Django's wife. He's under a ruse, and you'd think, not like we can identify with the black culture too much, but, you'd think as a black man, he would like to help them out or, whatever. But, he just thinks, fuck that, I'll grass him up. I want him to get killed. And he wants to help out Calvin. But I like the violence in that. I think it's not, like, overdone. I think when it's done, it's beautiful. It's quite beautifully shot as well.
Yeah, it's quite necessary, the violence.
The bits with when somebody gets shot with the blood on the cotton.
Yes.
And the mad like stuff like that. It's not quite, wouldn't go quite as far to say quote unquote cinematography, but that's done really well. I really like, and I still find it hilarious now, is the scene where the Ku Klux Klan come around the car. Do you remember that?
Yeah, isn't Jonah Hill part of them?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jonah Hill's uncredited for it. He's one of the main ones. And they start moaning about, like, why are you kicking off, saying my wife was knitted all these bed sheets, all these pillows. Stop slagging my wife off, and they kick it off. They're all dipshits. Like. They start, like, bickering amongst themselves.
I'm just trying to think of... was he in that because they did Wolf of Wall Street? I can't remember when Wolf of Wall Street came out.
I feel like Wolf of Wall Street was quite a bit after.
Yeah, I feel like it was like 2015 or something. 2013. So it was actually only a year later.
It was a year later, yeah.
But depending on, like, actual filming schedules, they could have been filmed at the same time. So, Leo and Jonah, they obviously were decent friends, and he was like, "Oh, I'm filming the current Tarantino. Maybe you can come in and be part of Ku Klux Klan." And he was like, "Oh, that sounds sick." I feel like that's how it went down. Also, Leo and Brad were both in Departed. Well, I say both in. Brad produced Departed.
I don't know.
So they've worked on a project before, but they've never really acted on screen together before.
Departed's a great film.
Yeah.
Departed, like, not to get sidetracked too much, but it's an incredible film. But now to go back to Django Unchained, I know all of Quentin Tarantino's films are particularly long, but I know towards the back end that does quite suffer with like its length of film, because it could have ended. There's that whole bit where he gets captured again.
Yeah.
And you feel like that drags out a little bit. But it is gold. And it's like, it's a revenge story you fall in love with and you get quite attached to. And like you said, it's a bit, Quentin's films are a bit like Game of Thrones in the sense that no character's safe. And Christoph Waltz gets wrecked. And another thing, like, it showcases Christoph Waltz really well. Because obviously, we mentioned Inglourious Bastards, and Quentin Tarantino really puts Christoph Waltz on the map for, like, everybody.
Yeah, it does.
And the difference between characters of Inglourious Bastards and Django Unchained is, like, mad. It shows his range, and it shows, like, how much of an unlikable character he can go to be, and, like, villainous character. So quite a charming, like, mentor for Django even.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then he was wasted in James Bond.
Yeah.
The rise and fall, baby.
I think it's so weird in that. They could have done so much more with him in that. But yeah, not to get too sidetracked with that, I suppose.
But like I said, my so you said your underrated was what was your underrated again?
Hopefully, yeah.
Yeah. So my underrated would be Reservoir Dogs, because I mean most people know of it, but because it's like the oldest one, people don't like go back to watch it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, that's like it came out in '92. Oh, I don't really want to watch that. Oh, this one came out in 2009. Yeah, I'll watch that one.
I know what you mean. I only watched it. I only watched about 10 years ago. I watched about 10, 15 years ago.
I mean, we couldn't have watched it at the cinema because we weren't born yet, but
No.
but we sort of like actively watched it because
Steve Buscemi's gold. Have you watched Broadwalk Empire?
No, I haven't. You keep trying to get me to watch it though.
Broadwalk Empire is a really good gangster like TV show with Steve Buscemi carrying that. Not to mention, we've been obviously, Quentin Tarantino episode. He's a good actor in his own right. I think the acting roles he has in his films are good. Sometimes I like that he doesn't cast himself as a main character. Even good directors like Clint Eastwood are guilty of doing it, but he doesn't just force himself to the forefront.
No, he just likes to be that sort of the extra, that sort of. I say extra, but it's like the supportive role.
He's usually in a prominent scene.
Yeah.
So in Pulp Fiction, he comes to mind, and he's in quite a few prominent scenes, obviously in Reservoir Dogs.
I mean, I know when I've like done some directing and stuff, when you've got to direct yourself, so you're like the main character as well as being the director, it's a bit tiring. So to actually just be like the support actor where you can like dip in and out and not always be on set, like let's say on set in front of the camera, then it does free you up a little bit, but you're still like able to be in the film, still be able to show your face in your creation, but you can sort of just take a step back at intervals as such, so you don't always have to be in every scene. Whereas if you are like always in every scene, like as you said, Clint Eastwood, that does become a bit tiresome, because I mean, you can't really direct because then it's just self-directing. So
and it's how do you become like it's harder to become critical of yourself as well.
Oh no, I find it much easier to be critical of myself, but that's the problem, because you're overcritical of yourself, so you want yourself to keep doing better. So if you're someone else, you push them like to a certain limit, but you're like, oh no, they're it's up to them to then push themselves. Whereas myself, I will keep pushing myself, and that's how you tire yourself out, because you want to keep doing better.
Yeah, but you know your limits. But as you say, you can keep pushing yourself.
Yeah.
But it's weird. You can treat yourself differently rather than how you treat the next man or next lady per se.
Yeah. Like as you say, I know my own limits, but I can also push myself more than someone else, because I will take my own shit more than someone else would take my shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd put that as is underrated, to be fair, because I don't feel like enough people have watched it, and it's the staple of Tarantino. It's where Tarantino began, and I mean that particular scene with
Malcolm Madison, is it? Really?
Yeah, where he starts singing to him
when he's got the razor blade.
When he's got the razor blade, yeah, that scene.
Yeah, that's weird.
That to me is like where Tarantino like made his mark. That it was that sort of scene. It's like, oh, I'm a guy that's a little fucked in the head, and I'm gonna do things a little differently around here. And he sort of like just kept that going for all of his films.
It's very quirky and weird, like.
Yeah.
And it's how he like revels in the violence and shows how like sadistic people can be.
100%.
His films is not before the MCU per se. Apparently, all his films are like connected through like thin lines. So apparently, Michael Madison's character is brothers with John Travolta's character from Pulp Fiction. And then there's Kill Bill. Do you know she talks about in Pulp Fiction? She talks about the spin-off she was in, the actress. So Uma Thurman talks about the pilot she filmed, and that she's referring to Kill Bill. She's referring to the characters in Kill Bill.
Oh, right.
Even though Kill Bill is obviously set in the future, Not set in the future, but it came out a lot later.
Yeah.
If I had to recommend one of his,
Oh,
I think I'd recommend Inglourious Bastards.
No, I'm gonna go with my best directing because it's the same answer I did for Nolan. Was if I was to recommend one, it was my best directing, which was Inception, and for Tarantino, his best directing is Hateful Eight, so that's the one I'd recommend. Because you don't want to start them off with the masterpiece, but you don't want to show them like the underrated or the fan favorite. You want them to watch the best one that's on offer as such. The best directing, and allow them to enjoy that one, and then go to find the underrated, and then watch the fan favorite. Because if you just watch the fan favorite first, you're like, oh, that's my favorite too. It's like, no. Look at another one. Don't just follow like sheep. Find your own favorite. Don't just watch the favorite because that's everyone else's favorite.
I know what you mean, but that's also why I'd say there's no point recommending Pulp Fiction because you've probably already watched it, or you've people have took the piss out of it.
Yeah, you've
already seen the references or whatever.
Yeah, 9 times out of 10 you already know the plot as well, especially such as Pulp Fiction because it's so widely known already anyway. And he's quoted a lot, so you'll hear certain things going, wait, is this the film that quote's from? So you don't want to be thinking those sort of things when you're trying to watch the film for the first time.
They say it's a good romp, like the Weekly Planet, and there's a good laugh of a film. I think that's what Inglourious Bastards is. You could watch that and just absolutely. I'm not saying you absolutely crease every 2 minutes in it, but as I said, I find it quite uplifting. It's a low-key really good female driven as well.
Yeah, it's a female driven narrative.
Can't remember the actress who plays her, but the blonde character, the French character who owns the cinema, she's badass. She is
Diane Kruger.
Yeah, I think it might be her. Yeah, she literally gives no fucks, and the way her scenes with Daniel Brawl are like really intense.
Wait, do you know she's married to Norman Reedus?
No, I didn't know that. No, that's interesting.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, he's done really well there.
No, sorry, it's Melanie Laurent. Sorry, Melanie Laurent is the French actress. I'm gonna say, I was like, Diane Kruger's not right. Who did Diane Kruger play then?
The actress, is it? Is it the actress who breaks her leg? She's the other blonde.
Yeah, Bridget von Hammersmark. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was like, when I was looking at her face, I was like, it's not the right face. She's blonde, but I was like, that's not the right face.
You say about quoting bits, but I really like Buongiorno.
Arrivederci.
That's it.
I speak the most Italian.
That's it.
Margaretti.
Margaretti. Lieutenant Alro Dane.
Girl Army.
We're in the Nazi hunting business. It's coming back to me now, but I really like the scene where they've got one chap who says, he's the Burju, tell us where your mates are on the map here, you're a scout, tell us where we can find more Nazis. And he says, no, we'll never surrender. So then the Burju absolutely beats crap out one of his Nazis. Then they bring the next Nazi over and he just points at the map really quickly and he just shouts out of all the information.
Isn't it a bit? I don't know if I've watched a load of war films. I can't remember if it's in Inglourious Bastards or not. But doesn't the captain or something of a certain squad, he's not wearing the full uniform. Someone else is wearing the uniform. And they think he's a captain. And he's like, oh, I'm not actually the captain. The captain's wearing a normal soldier uniform.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he does that to try and throw the scent off,
Yeah. So I've seen that in a couple of films. Now thinking about it, so there's a lot of war films. There's a lot of great war films out there. To be fair.
Yeah, I suppose we could do our own podcast on that. You're particularly more into it, but there's such a good genre in their own right. We could probably do an episode not just on them.
That is true. To be fair. I can think of loads. I mean, The Guns of Navarro, Von Ryan's Express, The Great Escape, Battle of the Bulge, 30 Dozen.
Don't you mean the best escape war film is Escape to Victory? That's absolutely fucking banger of a film, that is. It's absolutely golf.
But then you've also, I suppose, got a bit more modern war films as well. I'd rather modern war films are boring though.
Hacksaw Ridge is probably one of my favourite war films. Fucking gold, that is.
I'm not going to disagree with you there at all. I think it's a solid film. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a good premise. There we go. But it's actually a really solid film, and Garfield absolutely acts the shit out of it. And Gibson I think Mel Gibson is a brilliant director.
I forgot he directed that.
Yeah.
I think Vince Vaughn's really good in that as well. Obviously, Andrew Garfield's great without saying it. He obviously carries that film, but Vince Vaughn's really good in it.
Vince Vaughn can be like an absolute chameleon sometimes. And it's like, why do you always do bullshit rom-coms?
Exactly. Why is he always the funny sidekick? Speaking of Brad Pitt, I do like him as a funny sidekick in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, but I just feel like he's played that role a million times.
But sorry, we're so to getting sidetracked. We're meant to be talking about Tarantino here. There's so much to discuss.
Yeah, it happens, and I suppose with 6 degrees, like with actors being in so many different things.
Everything's related.
Everything's connected.
But no, so yeah, my underrated would be Reservoir Dogs. My cult classic would be Pulp Fiction. My fan favourite would be Inglourious Bastards. My best director would be Hateful Eight, and my masterpiece would be Once Upon a Time. What was yours?
My underrated would be Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight, yeah.
My best work would be Inglourious Bastards. My fan favourite would be Pulp Fiction because everybody knows it and it's so quotable. Cult classic is Jackie Brown because I don't know any fucker who's watched it.
Yeah, me included. And what was your masterpiece?
I stand by masterpiece would be Inglourious Bastards also.
Yeah, so best direct masterpiece. It's like the whole package for you.
Yeah.
So Once Upon a Time doesn't even get a mention.
It does, I suppose.
You got you got to rethink the whole list now.
I think it'll have its. I suppose I'd have to rejiggle my whole list, but I would probably go with underrated because I remember everybody being champion with it, having mixed reviews.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. In fact, I might even watch it the weekend because I know my partner Charlotte, she hasn't watched it.
So my dad hasn't watched it, and I kept trying to convince him to watch it. I know my mum watched it.
I'm going to see my parents the weekend, and I know my dad hasn't got enough patience for it. Like, you think it's such a slow burner.
Yeah, that's exactly the same with my dad. It's like, you need to watch it because it's brilliant.
Just hang in there, like, it's worth it.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't recommend shit.
Yeah, it's great. Like, just, yeah. Don't you trust me?
Yeah, I know, yeah. Not like I'm your son.
Yeah. On the fruit of your lines. Again. But no, we don't really do them in priority order, but as we say, they'll give you a bit of an insight of our feelings on the Tarantino films.
I'm looking forward to, because presumably this next one will be his last one, whatever this next one will be. I haven't heard anything about what it could be, but he said he will only ever do 10 films. So this is presumably his last one.
You know what I heard he'd do? And I'd absolutely love it. And I heard it a few times on different sources, on different podcasts and articles.
I think I might know what you're about to say.
That he'd do a mad Star Trek film.
Oh no, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
He said that he'd do an X-rated Star Trek film. I'm pretty sure, unless I've totally made that up, but I'm pretty sure I've heard it from quite a few resources.
So, but what I heard is that he would like to do a James Bond film, but if he were to do a James Bond film, he would take James Bond back to 1960s, and Bond wouldn't ever leave the 60s. He'd be like The Simpsons, like they never age sort of thing. So it'd be like Bond is just always set in the 60s, and I like that because I feel like James Bond's now is becoming too much about nanotechnology this, drones that. And it's always like, we used to know who our enemy was. We used to see a flag and know that was our enemy. Now our enemies are in the shadows. And it was just it's just this constant repetition of the same old bullshit. Whereas back in the 60s, you can have really retro tech that is stuff we take for granted today. Get some classic cars and you can see, that's more sort of that's.
I think you have more license to ham it up as well and make it more romantic.
But also obviously keep it a little bit woke. I hate that word. I fucking hate that word. But keep it more sort of woke in the sense because Bond doesn't need to be an absolute boozing womanizer that's. Yeah, he can't be racist. He can't be a womanizer that's constantly just trying to trick women and get into their pants. They do need some development on that side of things. It'd be nice to see Bond just set back in the 60s. I know he just said it in an off chance, and I actually thought about it a lot after hearing about it. I was like, actually, that's a really good idea.
I agree. And it would be interesting.
Yeah. It'd be bloody as well. It'd be like Timothy Dalton Bonds, because they were quite bloody, they were.
Well, there's our wrap up on Quentin Tarantino's filmography. What's your moment of the week, huh?
All right then, so go on. My moment of the week this week is I've literally kept this a secret from you. I haven't mentioned it at all because I was like, I'm gonna surprise him when we do the episode.
Have you
Few
finally
episodes
watched
ago-
something I recommended or something?
Yeah. So a few episodes ago, Mikey attempted to convince me to watch Kenobi, and guess what I've watched?
You've actually watched Kenobi?
I have, yeah. I'm halfway through Mandalorian now, but I've completed watching Kenobi, and
All of it.
I watched it all, binged it, mate. I watched it all in a day.
Oh, we could have had a whole episode about this again.
I really enjoyed it. To be fair, I mean the episode. It's not actually as long as you think because there's the whole intro bit, and then there's like the recap, and then at the end there's quite a big what's it called, credit sequence. So the episodes themselves are only like 35 minutes long. Right?
Yeah, I think the first 2 episodes are quite long, but after that, on average, it's like probably like 40 minutes.
Yeah, it's not that long to be fair. So it was quite easy to binge through them, to be honest. But I generally enjoyed it. It actually like sort of. I'm not big on Star Wars because I feel like the films are just like they just ruin it. Like the original trilogy was great, and then the prequels. I mean, I know you really enjoy the prequels, but I can take them or leave them. I enjoy the nostalgia of the prequels. The new ones are awful. But then the TV show, this Kenobi, it reinvigorated it for me because I was like, whoa, I actually really enjoy this. This is really like interesting to me. I don't know, it was just really interesting watching it, going, I'm not hating this. I'm actually enjoying myself.
Its biggest strength is that I know Eric Kripke recently was mugging off streaming service showrunners,
Yeah.
saying that you should look at TV shows, especially on the streaming services, like episodic weekly TV shows, not this crap where you try and think as like a 6-hour movie or an 8-hour movie. But Kenobi does that really well. It does, like you said, I presume I don't want to speak for you, but you've watched it in a day.
Yeah.
And it does that really well. It's really tight storytelling.
Yeah, it is really tight storytelling. There was only like a couple of things that like irritated me a little bit when watching it. I mean, first of all, Lola, her little droid, there was a silhouette or like the way it was like the camera angle was in the first episode, and I was like, oh my god, it's Mickey fucking Mouse. Literally, the silhouette is Mickey Mouse. I was like, could Disney be any more obvious with this?
With the fins.
Like the fins, yeah, the way it sort of like the way it was just it moved, and then the way the fins were up, it was like the ears of Mickey Mouse, and like it had the perfect silhouette of Mickey Mouse, and I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. But then the other bit was when Leia is running away and she's like about to get kidnapped. That is the most cringe scene of the entire show because it's like absolute like the kidnappers are just fumbling. It's like this girl is 10 years old. How is she outrunning you? You've seen like films when like parents are playing with their kids. Like it's like a goalie. They're jumping left and right. And the kid goes through the legs or something. It's like that bullshit. It's like, oh, come on, just grab the kid. Stop fucking about.
That scene in particular, if you played the Benny Hill music over it, wouldn't be out of place.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. And I mean, to be fair, that's of the whole show. That was just the one scene that really stuck out to me, going, "Ah, oh, you fucked it there." But everything else I really enjoyed, and I think the acting from everyone is superb. And I know you mentioned it in the episode of Joel Edgerton. He's brilliant, and he does not get enough screen time as Uncle Owen. It's not about Uncle Owen, that's the thing. So he's unfortunately he's not got an interesting character. It's just he's made his character more interesting.
Yeah, and what I like about his Uncle Owen character is that that's how you would react in real life. You'd be like, fuck off, I don't want you, I want you away from Luke. Look what you've done to Anakin. You know, you're going to fuck it again. That's essentially like how you'd react in real life.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Christian Henderson, he got like a lot of shit, didn't he, when he did the prequels?
Yeah, Hayden Christensen, yeah.
Yeah, but I like to think he has he seems to have taken acting lessons since then. So he is less wooden and his lines flow a lot better now.
I don't think he's necessarily bad in the prequels. I just think like some of the, like as you say, his lines.
Yeah, it was. I think it was maybe the direction or something. You know, it was just like our cameras rolling and yeah, we're done. Right, let's move on. There wasn't like I didn't feel like there was a love there or something. But in this, there's definitely a lot more sort of support around it. You can feel that everyone's happy to be there.
What do you think of how like emotional the final battle is? I think that's really done really well.
I think it is done really well, to be fair. I mean, you said in the episode is you didn't like the bit where he has the whole flashback of, oh, I gotta save Leia and blah blah blah, and I can break out of it. But it didn't feel out of place. It fit the scene, and I think that's what you also said in the episode. You were like, oh, great, but it does fit. It doesn't feel out of place at all. Like I say, the only thing to me that stood out was when they were trying to kidnap Leia to begin with, and the little dodging around.
Everybody in that scene looking capable in that Leia scene when she's dodging around.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, come on, this is your job. Like, you kidnap kids. But what I really liked was the world building, because I think it's the second episode where he has to go and save her, and that's when he meets Kamal Nanjiani's character. Like, that whole like city that they're in there, I really enjoyed like that city world building that they've got going on, and they're running across the rooftops. Actually, that's another blunder. They're running across the rooftops and they're like shooting each other. Obi-Wan is like missing a million shots, right? And then it's not until like, I don't think it's like the next episode, he's like landing every shot. It's like, hold up, what happened here? What happened here?
Realistically, he wouldn't be great with a blaster, but he wouldn't be that shit either. He'd
No,
just
he
be
wouldn't.
alright.
I mean, just use the Force to bend the bullet. I mean, come on.
Bend the bullet. It's not wanted, and he's like, you know, it's a blaster, but like,
Well, Vader stops bullets, so I mean, what's the difference?
yeah, I suppose he does.
That's not how the Force works.
That's not how I thought so. But no, I'm glad you watched it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, to be fair. And as you convinced me, if no one else has watched it, I do. If you got the option, watch it. And actually, Disney Plus is actually cheaper than every other streaming service out there. So it kind of is worth it just for like a month, just to like binge everything if you want to.
But my moment of the week is something to do with Disney Plus as well, actually. But you've got, let's say for some reason you've never watched The Walking Dead, you fancied watching The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Even if you only pay for 2 months of Disney Plus, you could watch the entirety of The Walking Dead, and that'll be a lot cheaper than buying the box set. Hell of a lot cheaper. And then for some reason you started getting into Star Wars, and the Star Wars Clone Wars animated series, it's got all of that. So yeah, definitely Disney Plus is gold in that respect. But my moment of the week is I absolutely love Atlanta. It's Donald Glover's like direct, basically. It's the series he show runs, and he writes that. And it's a really funny and surreal comedy. And it's, again, not like I identify as a member of the black community, but his satire in a lot of his episodes, especially the first episode of the new season 3, is just so on the nose. And it's got this like young black kid who gets taken into by these two like really hippie, woke white lesbians, but they're incredibly patronising towards him and the black community, and like they turn out to be villains, like spoilers, but they're not outright villains. It's so done so smartly and like also on the nose that it's quite abrasive, but that's what makes it so funny. So give you a point like this again. This is low, like, you know, spoilerish, but he gets adopted by these 2 women, and like they mostly eat veg or like frozen fried chicken. But he's hungry and he's like working in the allotment. Say allotment, that's very British, but he's working outside in the yard, if you'd say an American. And he says how hungry he is and bored. And she's saying, like, you know, just do that. You can have food. You've already had lunch. And he says, oh, I'm just bored. And the woman says to him, oh, why don't you sing? And he starts rapping. And she goes, no, why don't you sing something like jolly and keep you in rhythm? And he's like, you know, it's like it's a slave. She starts singing, I don't want to work. Why don't you want to work? I don't want, or something like that. And it's
like a prison shanty sort of thing.
It's like a prison shanty / like slave shanty.
Yeah. Oh God.
I watched that and I was in absolute bits, and it's so wrong but great. So I definitely recommend that. And again, that's on Disney Plus.
What's it called? Atlanta.
It's called Atlanta, yeah. It's the 3rd season on at the moment.
Is it like Atlanta, like the city?
No, it's called Atlanta because of the rap scene in Atlanta. The main what's really weird about the show is it follows Donald Glover's character who manages his cousin, who's a rapper called Paperboy. They have these random episodes like that one, which are totally unrelated from Donald Glover's character. But most of the scenes, I'd say, 80% of the time, it follows Donald Glover and his like cousin and his cousin's entourage, and it's got like him making it in the rap scene. But it's still quite funny. Like even those like random episodes, like I just mentioned, that's how like season 3 starts off. There's another episode called I think it's called Benny Jenkins or something. But basically, there's a character based on Michael Jackson, and that is surreal and creepy. If I could recommend one episode,
it'd be that one.
It'll be that one. Just Google Michael Jackson character Atlanta, and it will come up. But that's great. But that's my recommendation or moment of the week is Atlanta.
All right.
But yeah, thank you for listening as always.
Yeah, we appreciate you all listening in, tuning in,
and keep tuning in. And we really appreciate it as usual. And if you can share with your friend or whether it be on share our Instagram, people share the YouTube or directly share the episodes. We hope you like this filmography style episode.
Yeah, we enjoy doing it, to be fair, because it's a bit of nostalgia in a sense of going through like a timeline of a director. It's not just like, oh, there's something new that's brand new out that's, everyone's now talking about. We're sort of going back in the past a little bit with certain things. That's quite nice doing that sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. Speaking of going into the past, but trying to stay relevant also, I am virtually about to complete Horizon Forbidden West.
You're taking your absolute time, man. It's a joke.
I know that, but I like to be thorough, and I've to its credit, and obviously we'll explore this a lot more next episode. To tease the millions of fans we've got, the next episode will be about Horizon Forbidden West.
Yeah, it will be. I mean, I might have to start playing it again because it's been so long since I've completed it.
But yeah, thank you for listening, guys. Look after yourselves.
Yeah, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Catch you in the next one.
Bye.